Welcome, low ego action heroes. This is Debbie Levitt from deltacx.com. We're a full service CX and UX consultancy, and check us out if you feel like it. Welcome to what I think is August 23rd, 2022, and this is usually office hours Ask Me Anything, but we've got a special guest joining us today, and so we'll welcome him in just a moment. But first, as always, and hello, Pradeep. Well, thank you to everybody who has joined through the YouTube channel and is donating $3 to $10 per month to keep me in streaming software and chocolate chips. I just got my quarterly payout. I think it was $160. So thanks to everybody for all of the delicious chocolate. By the way, dark chocolate preferred. Hi, Manuel. I guess, let me just remind everybody that since it is office hours, we are taking your questions live. Marianne wrote, "Take me off this list." I don't even know what list you're on, Marianne. You have opted in to watch a live stream on LinkedIn, and you are not on a list. I don't know what to tell you. You will need to not press the thing on LinkedIn when I go live. But hey, I would say... Hey, this is office hours, so if you have any questions, please ask them. You can ask them through the chat. You can also find the link at deltacx.com/links, and we will, of course, get your questions anonymously through the link that's on the links page. So let's meet Matthew, who we're not totally meeting. We met him, I think, in March, and we are now welcoming him back. So, Matthew, you should be on the air. Can you hear us?
Hey, Debbie, how you doing? Thanks for having me again. Appreciate it.
Yes. Welcome back. So as always, we like to have guests introduce themselves so they can say whatever they would like about their careers or who they are or what they specialize in. So who the heck are you?
Sure thing. My name is Matthew Voshell. I'm a senior product designer based out of Seattle, Washington. Oh, and I'm also the, I mentioned this last time, I'm also the podcast host of Discovering Design. Available anywhere in all major podcast platforms, and in the middle of season 3 now, so definitely check it out.
Check it out, and you've been doing this a few years. You have some expertise.
Yeah, we're in the middle of the 3rd season, and I'm already...
No, I meant like you as a UX person.
Oh, sorry. Yes, correct. Yeah, about 9 years now. I don't know. COVID's messing with the sense of time, but yeah, 9 plus years now.
Right. No, I just like to make sure to establish a little bit of expertise for our guests since you are answering people's questions. And I don't know if you've been hearing about this, but we do have some problems in the UX world where people who are mentors have 7 minutes of experience and haven't had their first job. So I like to establish the guest's experience. Now, the downside is we have no questions today. Let me see if one just came in. Yes, one just came in. So give me one moment to do a lot of copy paste and we'll have our first question. Meanwhile, if anybody would like to ask in the chat or through the anonymous link, all questions are welcome. We'll be here about an hour. All right, let me copy this one. Okay. This is an interesting one. Let's put this up on the screen. Sorry, one-woman show, lots of copying and pasting from different sources. Please be patient. Please stand by. Your question is very important to us. All right. Okay, first question looks like this. I'm a UI designer. How can I work on personal projects without a researcher? I have no experience with research, and I'm not really good at it. Any advice to someone who sounds like they're trying to maybe build up their skill or portfolio?
Sure. So how can I work on a personal project where if it's a personal project, you're the boss. So if it's not meeting a standard, it's really up to you first. Yeah. So I don't know if you'd fire yourself, but yeah, that means that there is no standard. So if you're terrible at it, no one's going to care except for you. So just try it anyway and see how it goes. And no matter what, even if you're bad at it, you'll still probably learn something from it more than anything. So I would say just take a step and try it. Second, if you're really that unsure of yourself with respect to that, spend time with people who are or who you think are good at it, or the industry thinks is good at it, that either you may have access to locally. You can take them out to coffee or try to connect on Zoom in some way if you're not. and just spend 20 minutes. Hey, how did you get into it? What are the aspects you try to get out? What techniques do you leverage or have you learned? Try to learn from the people who've already been doing it for 20, 30 years. And then you can certainly glean quite a lot from that to build up your confidence as far as how you go about that in
All
many
right.
ways.
Yeah, I'm going to throw in something as well, which is my guess is that if you're trying to work on personal projects where you're trying to show that you did some design work, and then, of course, it's good to have worked with some sort of research knowledge and data rather than guess at screens. Maybe what you can do is partner up with a researcher. Did you already say this? I'm sorry. I hope I
I'd
don't
say
give the
connect
same
with a
answer you.
researcher, but you certainly can hire one or have them do the work for you or learn in some way that way. But it seemed like they wanted to do it themselves versus having someone else come in and work with them. At least
Yeah,
that was
I'm
my
not
opinion.
sure. I can't tell from the question. So yeah, if you want to get better at it, we can talk about that. My thought was maybe if you know a researcher who is trying to do some practice and upskill themselves, they can do the research side, research junior or newbie. They could do the research side, you could do the design side, and you come up with a little fakey project together. We have another question coming in through the anonymous system. Let me grab that. Oh, we've got two questions. Oh, okay. Let's see. Hold on. Sorry. Slow motion copy paste. None of my systems talk to each other. This is the fun part. Okay. Next. Oh, and I don't even have this first question written down. Oh no. Hold on. I'm behind. Okay, I'm pressing buttons today and my system's moving really slowly, so I apologize to everybody. Okay, we'll take that one
Summer
down.
session. Even the computer's on
Yeah,
vacation.
exactly. The whole of Italy is asleep on vacation. Did you have a summer vacation, Matthew?
I
No,
did a little
yes.
bit. I was lucky enough to get to the Caribbean for a little bit, and then
Oh,
also
good.
to Philadelphia, where I grew up. So shout out to Philly.
Go cheesesteaks. Okay, so, hey, I was in Philly and I went to, what's that museum? The art museum. Famous art person.
Museum of Art.
No, individual artist person with the big doors.
Individual person with the big doors.
Oh no. Okay. Anyway, moving on.
Probably can't.
Anonymous question says, because they're doing better than I am. Anonymous question says, I've come to the realization the reason I'm struggling to get my first UX job is because some of the internships and volunteering I did lack full UX maturity, as if anywhere is mature. No research or process is involved, just straight into designs. Now I'm lost on what to do.
Wow. So there's a lot in there. So it seems so. First, getting a job, you're not alone. Everybody, there's so much talent on the market right now, and with everything going remote, there's access to even more. So it's just competitive. That's not you. So don't blame yourself for that for sure. But as far as the prior internships and volunteering that you did, if you feel as though they did lack that, I feel like I've been seeing this more often, especially on LinkedIn, of companies specifically hiring people with 0 years of experience because they want to be able to, form you in a way that works really well for that company, right? So I would say first do that. Earlydesignjobs.com, I think, is another site that's really great for people who are just getting into, just want to get in or find paid internships and things. I've heard some success from that. But I wouldn't say there's any lack of that. And if you feel there is, get another internship and try to continue to build that out. Or there's certainly no lack of Team Treehouse now has a UX thing. There's obviously all the Google certificates. There's no lack of knowledge that you could absorb and cover that chasm that you identified without having to get a job specifically. So I would certainly say explore those avenues as well to try to augment that knowledge that you think you haven't gotten yet.
And I would add a different angle to it because I don't disagree, but I was also thinking about how we've talked about these types of internships and volunteering on the show before, and I feel like I'm hearing, I don't know if you're talking to a lot of up-and-coming UXers, Matthew, but I feel like I'm hearing what this person is saying a lot. I'm hearing a lot of people saying, I did this internship, I did this volunteering, I did this pro bono work, and it was a freaking mess. It was disorganized, there was no lead, nobody was checking my work, this wasn't anything it was promised to be, and now I don't know what I'm putting in my portfolio, or I'm putting wacky crap in my portfolio. So I do tend to remind people that you don't have to say yes to everything. If you are looking into a volunteer opportunity, an internship opportunity, and you've asked who's going to be checking my work, how often, what is the shape and form of this program, what kind of feedback am I getting, and someone's like, ooh, or whatever the case may be, you don't have to say yes to that, especially since so many of these are unpaid. You're not going to miss out on the money. And if you feel like you've done these and now they don't look great in your portfolio and you still can't get them, I agree with Matthew that you can still look for other opportunities and ways to continue learning and trying out your skills. But I don't think that these volunteer things that I keep hearing about are what they're cracked up to be, and I don't understand the people running them. I don't understand, because many of you are coming to me privately and on this show saying, oh, I volunteered at this thing and it's a freaking mess, and the only thing I've learned is that projects are a mess. Matthew, anything to add to that?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's all very relevant, true, I think. Other than to kind of piggyback on that a bit, I was trying to think this idea that the only way I can get experience is through a job. I never really subscribed to that or understood it. You can get so much more experience if you just spent 30 minutes with someone who just go to their website. If the things that they make you think are cool, go talk to that person, especially now more than any. Write them just a quick message. Hey, it works really great. How do you make it? How do you do it? What is your experience like? And then talk to them for 30 minutes, and you'll get way more out of that than probably any horrible job in that way of trying to build yourself as a designer, because you're going to get the inside track on things that you need to really pay attention to and the things that you can probably ignore as well.
Yeah, and the thing that I would add to that, because I do like that advice, but the thing that I would add is I get a lot of messages and LinkedIn messages and stuff, and very often it's from up and coming juniors and or people who want to get into UX, and they'll say things like, I'm really impressed by how you got into UX and I want to learn more about you. And my thought was, thing one, you can't tell from my LinkedIn how I got into UX, and thing two, why? Why don't you just ask me for what you really want? What do you need help with? What are you struggling with? What is your question? Why are you trying to cover me in butter and make it seem like I'm so impressed by your career trajectory? You don't know what my career trajectory is. Just write to me and tell me what's on your mind. Write a more, if you're going to do as Matthew says and reach out to some of these people, just please write a genuine email. Don't listen to some of these people who give you these form emails to send out. I can tell when you've sent me a form email and when you've sent me a genuine message. Matthew?
Yeah, 100%.
And T-Loon had commented, how about the way you explain the process? There's some type of process with every project. So that's T-Loon's advice to the person who's asking the question. Is there anything that you can do with essentially the storytelling in your portfolio, I guess, to try to make this sound a little bit better? Put some lipstick on it.
Okay. Sorry. Go. No, go.
I was going to go to the next question, if that's okay. We got a few more in while we weren't looking. And we welcome more questions. Send them over, everybody. Put them in the chat or go to deltacx.com/links and you'll get a link to ask anonymously. And I added a few to the list. This person says, most people new to UX are told to put themselves out there. And mostly all they post is UI, which is better. How can I put myself out there better? Matthew, I assume you've seen which UI is better on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Yes. And I've actually seen, I've seen, I don't know what you would call it really. It's not really we have to come up with a name for it, but it was a meme of that. But the two things that you're comparing are obviously ridiculous. Like that's kind of the whole point, and they're making fun of it in a way, which is also getting going around a little bit. But yeah, I guess my first question is like, why you're putting yourself out there? Like, what is the goal of putting yourself? Are you trying to get a job? Are you trying to get famous? Like what's the point of putting yourself out there? You should have a goal for that, hopefully. Otherwise, there's other platforms that are much better at that. I'll just leave it at that. Is it mostly post UI, which is better? There's no better. I would say design is like a cousin to art, and all art is subjective. So what one person thinks is better, another person might seem terrible, right? So it's really about what is the goal of what you're trying to ultimately achieve. If you want to generate views and people to look at what you're posting, I would say go to the human side, right? Tell a story, explain the problem, explain the people affected by the problem. How did you understand it? How did you begin to fix it? How did you make sure you fixed it, right? Those kind of high level areas. UI is fine, but you know, if you want to do that, go to Dribble, right? That, or I think Pinterest, Instagram is also, I think, popping up for that. I've seen, so go over there. People who love that. There are people who love this. People come from more like a graphic design or artistic background. Like that's a thing. 100% go for that. But there is a time and place for that. I don't think you're going to get that as much at a place like maybe LinkedIn or something that's more centric around like telling stories versus the thing itself. Although you can still obviously tell a story about how you created that visual design. It just won't take it to a sense of like full product design where it's ethnographic.
Yeah, thanks for that. I certainly loved when you said, like, what's your goal? You know, why are you trying to put yourself out there? I think that's really important to focus on, because we do get questions sometimes about, like, how do I express my personal brand? And, you know, if you're new to UX and you don't have a job yet, I don't expect you to have a personal brand. You know, I don't think you have to worry about a personal brand. Are you trying to be an influencer? Are you trying to be famous? Are you trying to get sponsorships? If not, we kind of don't care about your personal brand. We want to see that you know what you're doing. So when you talk about putting yourself out there, I know there's a lot of advice out there like, oh, post to LinkedIn and blah, blah, blah. But my advice, even though it runs a little bit opposite that, is if you don't have anything to say, you don't have to say anything. You know, if you don't have something to put on LinkedIn, don't rush to put something on LinkedIn. Wait until you have something to say, especially because if you post something wacky or undesirable, the algorithm will kill you anyway and nobody will see it. So think about what you're trying to put out there and why. So I go back to what Matthew said. Quick reminder for everybody that we have a free Slack community and we now have a free Discord community for people who prefer Discord over Slack. You're welcome to join one or both. Again, no charge. There's no membership fees in the Delta CX universe. Just visit deltacx.com/links and you can see how to join. We welcome all questions there. When I'm not here answering questions, I'm there answering questions. So you've got the whole community behind you, here to support you. Let's see. We've got more questions coming in, so I'm just going to keep feeding them to you. Matthew, I hope you don't mind the tennis ball style. All right. I remember tennis camp. Just tennis balls shot at me all day. Who remembers tennis camp? Okay. How can a junior stand out? Sounds general, but I'd love your advice.
Yeah, again, why? First of all, why do you want to stand out? Yeah, this need to be like, is everybody trying to be like, I don't know if like everyone's seeing people like, you know, like Dan Mall and Christo, right? All those kinds of people. Like, you don't have to be. I know someone who grew up loving hot tubs and she lives in Oklahoma and she like designs the app that you use to like configure the hot tub and everything, right? She's totally happy and loves her life and is a designer. Like, that's an okay path too. Like, just saying you don't have to work at Fang and all that stuff. But how can you stand out? Honestly, at the end of the day, how can you stand out? Be yourself. Like genuinely be yourself, because especially for someone like me, if I'm hiring somebody, I don't want to hire somebody who's just like everyone else on the team. Like that's not going to get me anywhere, right? Like if you have a unique background, like I know a designer who suffers from epilepsy, and so she's working on those kinds of things. Like someone like that is going to come to a team with a very unique perspective that's going to contribute, right? So I think ultimately lean into just being yourself and who you are, and I think that'll help you stand out for sure.
Yeah, and we've done a couple of shows on this, and ultimately what I always advise people is that if this is about getting a UX job, I mean, I don't know if it's about something else, but if this is about getting a job, and especially your first job, to me the main way you stand out is to actually know what you're doing, because especially with how easy it is to take cheap or free online courses or watch some videos or read a couple of books and then declare yourself a UX researcher or designer, there aren't that many people who kind of really know what they're doing. There's certainly a lot of people who are still learning. They've got the training wheels on, they're getting there, but they might not be job ready yet. And remember, an employer expects you to be job ready, unless this is specifically a position with training, like an apprenticeship. They expect you to be able to do the work. So that means you can stand out by being able to do the work. That means you're going to spend more time up front learning, practicing, hopefully working with mentors and coaches and getting better until you can show the employer that you are ready for that entry level job. So I know that's kooky, obvious advice, but that would be my advice. Solomon says, get really good at whatever discipline interests you the most, so good that you can confidently handle projects involving its application. Yeah, that's a good point, Solomon. I guess I do also tend to advise that people be a little bit more of a specialist first. I know there's a whole tendency for everybody to want to be the ultra jack of all unicorns generalist, but I think if you're mediocre or bad at a lot of things, congratulations, but you still might not get that job. Remember, the job is looking for skill and proficiency. It might be better to say, I'm really just a really strong designer and prototyper, and I'm not a researcher yet. And just, I want to do these things for now and focus on that and get better. And that might be okay. Some jobs still do want the designer and prototyper, and they don't expect you to be the researcher or the coder. Matthew, anything to add to that?
No, 100%. I agree really with that. Really.
Groovy. Okay. And again, if you have any follow up questions, please feel free to ask them, even if it's a follow up question to someone else's question. We welcome all questions. Okay, this question says, hi, I'm very new to UX design, but when I discovered the field, I found out that UX is mostly implemented for more of digital products. So, for example, an app or a website. Why is UX for physical products so underrated?
Not to sound like, isn't that what industrial design is?
That's what I
Right?
was thinking.
I was gonna, yeah, sorry. Yeah, that's what industrial design is. Like, oh, there's
It's a
oh, is
separate
it a
field.
blog? Yeah, correct. Yeah, it's a separate field. Yeah, it's everything from, you can look at Johnny Ive and the stuff that he's done with the, I have a, oh, where I have it somewhere, but I have a map book with all the designs of the Macs and the huge photos. It's really cool. To there's a site I was thinking of. I can't remember the name of it now, it just escaped me. But where, oh yeah, it's for like cardboard packaging. I can't remember the name of it, but it talks and shows different ways of how they're being unique and like getting, not using glue or any kind of nails or anything. It's all just like almost origami and how it's kind of put together. It's very artistically beautiful. But yeah, it's 100% like its own thing, and there's lots of people who do it, and it's pretty cool. I look at a lot of that stuff as well. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking when I saw this. And while there certainly are UX designers who have expanded their skill set to service design and some other areas, sometimes specializing in kiosk design or in-store experiences, but ultimately, if it's physical objects and physical products, and as Matthew pointed out, packaging, these are technically separate careers. UX is typically going to be more in the digital product, service, experience type of realm. And you're going to want to be more of an industrial designer or engineer of some sort if you're thinking of going into a physical product. So,
And
yep, it's go ahead.
I will say, I will clarify, in healthcare and a lot of the products are coming out there, you are starting to kind of make that more of a gray area where the digital product and the physical product in a symbiotic relationship are the experience. And so you might get exposure or thought of what you're getting from there. But as far as the physical device itself, yeah, that's industrial design for sure, or an engineer.
Yep, cool. Okay. And we're allowed to disagree with each other, but I know so far we rarely do. But again, you're allowed to, so please do. Good Deb, you're wrong. Okay, we've got another question coming in anonymously. This one says, where we are just starting out in the UX field, conducting UX research is often a difficult task. Often we don't find participants to conduct interviews or take surveys. Could you tell me tips to find participants for UX research?
All right. I would say in today's modern social media age, there is no shortage of people who want to talk about themselves and their day. So I don't really buy into the fact that you can't find participants. There's plenty of people out there. Now, what problem are you solving? Who are the people you're trying to find? How can you make that pie smaller a bit, right? In that way. So let's say, for example, what I've done at my current day job, okay, I need to find property owners, but they need to be within their portfolio needs to be 1 to 20 properties. They need to be in regions where growth is high, and then I need multiple tiers, so tier 1, tier 2 cities, etc. I just went on Craigslist. Like, they're already there posting stuff, so they're right there. So I just connect with them that way, right? So once you identify who you're looking for, where do those people spend their time, right? I wanted to talk to New York landlords. Turns out there is literally a site called landlordsofnewyork.com that you can register for, and boom, now I have access to, I don't know how many there are, and there are probably 10,000 plus landlords in New York that I just randomly hit up and ask questions and stuff. So I don't think there's any shortage of people. It's just you got to know who you're looking for first. Somehow find a way to reduce that so you're just not going through everybody, and then find out where do those people spend their time. And everyone has some sort of social circle in some way. So figure out where they are and spend time there. Or what I did for one of my very first projects, I had to understand foreign currency traders or FX traders. So this this guy, for whatever reason, recorded himself for 24 hours because that's kind of the life that they live, and put it on YouTube. So I just spent a weekend and I sat there and I watched the whole thing. So there's tons of data points out there where you can access this kind of stuff, and there's no shortage of it. You just got to know who you're looking for and where they live.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. And I want to put this graphic up just to remind everybody that recruiting is a really important part of a UX research process. In about a month, we're going to be doing a live show specifically on recruiting. So I'm sorry that you don't have a time machine, but hopefully you can join us then. But just remember that you also want to make sure that first you are planning. And if you need some help with some of this stuff, not the recruiting part, but some of the planning, we do it. We've got micro lessons on it in the micro lessons playlist on YouTube. We've got a couple of things in the Think Out Loud playlist that might help you. But remember, recruiting is definitely an important part of this complete breakfast, and you want to make sure that all of these things are being done well for your research to turn out well. So how do you find those participants? Yes, delicious and nutritious. And also, I think a lot of people find that in some cases, depending upon who you're recruiting for, it would make sense to give them some sort of incentive for their participation. I've seen some people say, well, look, this is just my personal project. I don't have any money, so I'm just going to find people who want to do this out of the goodness of their heart. And I say, you can try that, but not a lot of people necessarily might want to give you 30 or 60 minutes out of the goodness of their heart. Or sometimes people say to me, well, I'll buy them a coffee. And I go like, bitch, I can buy my own coffee. Like, that doesn't feel like a fantastic incentive.
Okay.
Matthew, what do I will
add? Yeah, I will give, this is where I disagree with you. Yeah. Sort of. Yeah, you make a good point to the buying the coffee and that. Yes, I agree to that aspect, right? But I definitely am very conscious of bias. Like, are they just giving me these answers so they could get a gift card or whatever? So I split the difference. And who are people more than willing to give their time to? And that's students. So I will often masquerade as a student. I actually am. I do help out from time to time with the University of Washington's HCID program here. So I do have exposure to those students, but I will definitely say like, hey, I'm a master's student. I'm doing a project. Can you give me 30 minutes, blah, blah, blah. So I kind of split the difference a little bit that they feel like they're helping me, graduate and get a job, hopefully eventually. Right. And so I will role play and then go along that with when I kind of pitch to them with getting their time. And so that's certainly one thing you can try. If you get good enough at it, you can certainly get a lot. But yeah, I'm very hesitant to give any kind of money because I'm very anxious about bias in the data.
Yep,
But that's
and
just
we'll
me.
be talking about that on the show next month. Manuel says, wow, masquerading as a student. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to suggest that for everybody, but oops. Okay, see if that works for your particular world. Okay, and I saw Carabo had a question, and we'll put that on the list after this one. This one is, how do you handle burnout and uncertainty when designing? I sometimes get lost in design, even after doing research interviews.
Wow. I feel like those are when so literally you're designing and then you feel burnt out, I guess is the way they're writing that. um well, first and foremost, burnout's certainly a thing. You can try and get past it, but it really can sometimes take work to not work. If that makes sense. And really getting to a place, or literally physically, mentally, emotionally, where you can disconnect. I'm a huge proponent of meditation, whichever app you want to use. But I'm a big fan of Headspace and Andy. I use that quite a bit, or whatever else kind of works for you. To kind of disconnect and get to that place, I would certainly suggest figuring out that and making that part of your routine in some way.
Yeah. Gosh, how do we even start to answer this one? So, I certainly agree with Matthew. Obviously, whatever you have to do for self care is what you have to do for self care. When I still lived in California, my main form of self care was to jump on my motorcycle and just go ride for an hour and sing, put music in my helmet and sing out to nobody. And I had a lot of guilt around that until my life coach reminded me of the good gas mileage that my bike got. And then I bought some carbon offsets, but now I'm not too sure those are even a good thing. But anyway, you've got to do whatever works for you. And so I'm not too sure. Burnout and uncertainty are two completely different things. So I think the uncertainty and getting lost in design, it sounds like you're not too sure what you're trying to design. So my question is, did the research not set you up for success? Was there something about, because remember, great research should set the designer up for some success and to help guide the solutions they might create. Did the research not set you up for that success? Did you not answer the questions that you need answered to help guide your designs? Or is there just something about your current design process where you're just struggling to come up with ideas or solutions, and then that's leading maybe to frustration or burnout or confidence issues? So I tell people, I mean, my advice, and maybe Matthew's got something better. My advice is usually don't struggle for more than a half hour. If you are really struggling for a half hour and you're starting to get maybe upset or that burnout feeling or not losing confidence or something, go find a mentor, go find a coworker, go find your manager, go outside and take a walk. Do something to either break that moment or to get some help. And I find a lot of times when I used to work in companies and I was the more senior person, people would say, "Oh my God, I've been battling this for 2 days," and I would always go, "Why? Battle it for a half hour, and if you're not winning, come to me." So I would say the next time you find yourself in that loop, go find somebody who can help get you out of the loop. Matthew, any better suggestions there?
No, I think that was all really good, and I've certainly seen that from a design standpoint where, previous jobs I've walked at and seen junior designers working on something for 10 plus hours. And when I go and see when they're doing it, if they had just leveraged some aspect from Figma or Sketch, they could have done it in a half an hour, right? So work smart, not hard, for sure, is a saying I say often. Yeah, for sure.
There you go. So yeah, I hope that will help, and good luck with the burnout feeling. Hopefully you can catch breath. This one came up from the YouTube chat from Karabo, and it's a bit of honestly a bit of a strange question, so I'm not too sure how we can answer this, but we'll do our best. It says, how might one improve self-service interaction for TV streaming platforms? Talking from South Africa, where we have access to Disney Plus, Netflix, and other streaming. I think my first question is, did someone give you this as a design challenge for a job interview?
Yeah, I was gonna. After I read it again, I was like, yeah, this seems like a challenge or something because it says how might one improve, because nobody really talks like that in real life, right? But improve self-service interaction for TV streaming platforms. Talking from, well, I live in the U.S. And I believe you're in Italy, so I think we're both can't be qualified for what's going on in South Africa.
Well, they've
At
got the
all.
same Disney Plus that we've got.
I would
think.
imagine. Actually, I know because licensing agreements, they may have other things that we don't have, or they might
I
not have
think the
access to certain
interface
things that
looks
we
the
have.
same, but the content's going to be different. Like here in Italy,
Right.
so I signed up
Sure.
for
Sure.
Disney Plus in America, and then when I moved here to Italy and it realized I was in Italy, I got a whole wacky back catalog of
Right. Right.
Italian movies in Italian.
Nice. Nice. Okay. All right.
No,
Yeah.
not that
So,
nice.
but
They're
I'm with
wacky.
Italian cinema is pretty great. Funny in that way, but or enjoyable in that way, I should say. Yeah. Um, uh, yeah. This feels like a design question they would ask. I'm not sure how to answer this. Oh
He
no,
says,
it's not
no,
a
it's not a
challenge.
challenge. I've been thinking about the user experience and the CX experience in South Africa. It sucks. We get the same content from the US, and LOL, I speak like a designer. All right. And Elliot will add your question to the end. All right. So it's a serious question because he's just being pensive and he sees that things suck. So I'd start with research. But Matthew, how about you?
I would apply to their see if they have open jobs, right? Yeah, redesign a part of it if you want. It's up to you. Say, hey, like I think you can do this better, or pitch it and say, here's what I think the design should be, and roughly, and here's how it can help you reach your goals, assuming you can figure out what their team goals are in some way. But yeah, you go that far. And I know, I think Elon hired somebody at Tesla that had done something had written something for Tesla, and they ended up hiring. Apple did the same thing for somebody who wrote an app, and it's an album. So, I mean, I think if you take the initiative and just build something or create something, might get noticed and have a chance to
And
actually implement and actually have an influence on it for real.
And I've seen the opposite where some heads of design have tweeted, like, stop redesigning my app. But I think if you take the perspective of, hi, you're trying to regionalize to South Africa, and as South
Mhm.
Africans, here's something that doesn't work for us or something that doesn't make sense for us. And maybe this was
Right,
overlooked in the localization or regionalization, or hey,
right,
everything's
right,
in English and English is our fourth language, which, I know a little. I worked
right.
for a South African company, so I know a little bit about it. Like, why
Yeah.
isn't this in Zulu, Afrikaans? And so, I would say
Mhm.
make sure that you're coming from the perspective of South Africa rather than just, hey, your thing sucks, and I think it could be better,
Yeah.
because I found that tends to accidentally or less than accidentally insult the team that worked on it and the manager who you're hoping will hire you.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And actually, also to that point, that's really great because they may not have access to people in that region to understand those aspects, right? But you do, right? So go talk to some of your friends, right? Go talk to your parents, like whatever. Go talk to a bunch of people and say, hey, I talked to them. It's not just me saying this. Here's what my research says, right? Here's what the people say. And based on what they said, here's what, like, tell a story of not just, to your point, right? Not that I think it's terrible, but here's these needs that either are not being met or being met incorrectly, and based on the research, here's a way you could possibly change it and create better value for us. Yeah.
Always something that you can try out. So good luck, and let me know what you think of the latest Disney Plus shows. We're watching them here at our house. And T Loon, before we get to Elliot's question, T Loon had said, speaking of design challenges, I came across the book Solving Product Design Exercises by Artyom Dashinsky, which I'm probably mispronouncing. Has anyone read it?
I'm
Matthew?
not familiar with the book. I am not familiar now.
No, and to me, like, whenever people say, like, oh, I've got a video on how to solve product design challenges, or I have a course on it, and I go, I don't even get what that looks like, because how can you just tell someone like this is about process and creativity and good information and problem finding and problem solving. I can't give you a formula. I can't, this is all in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Milky Drop
Yeah.
says, I think app redesigns as a project get a bad rap because a lot of newbies or dribblers will simply reskin an app without solving an actual problem or providing new value. Good point, Milky. Yeah, you want to make sure that you didn't just make the Disney app more purple, and that, or pneumorphic, if that's a word, and make sure that you've actually done something a little bit deeper there. Okay, so we don't know this book, so we don't know what to tell you. Okay, let's jump into Elliot's question. Good morning, Elliot. Copy paste. Okay, Elliot says, what are some common mistakes new UX leaders often make once transitioning into a leadership position?
What are common? I mean, oof. It's kind of
Ouch.
I don't know. Is that big rate? Is that maybe somebody who is a new UX leader and they're trying to make sure
I thought Elliot was at the lead level, but not yet a manager. So I am not sure. Elliot, can you fill us in here? Are you talking about yourself? Did you get a new job that I don't know about? Help us out here.
That'd be helpful.
Yeah, that would help. And while we wait to hear from Elliot, let me also mention quickly, certainly in response to what Elliot is saying, is that we have the Concentric Conference coming up, deltacx.com/concentric, CONCENTRIC, and we have an entire day on transitioning into leadership. So you might want to check that out. It's going to be Friday, October 21st, 2022. You might want to sign up for that or some of the other events at the conference. So look. Hi, Kelby. Elliot says, I might be talking about myself. Okay, but are you still at lead level or manager level? What did I miss? And so what do you mean by leadership? Yeah, what do you mean by leadership? Like, are you managing people? Is this more about projects? I will say that one mistake, even though there are many, I think if I can jump on with two mistakes that I see leaders make, I'll send it back to Matthew. One is that I sometimes see leaders act like, or new leaders act like, even not new leaders, I've seen act like, oh gosh, I really have to earn everybody's trust. So I'm just going to kiss everybody's ass and say yes to bullshit that I shouldn't say yes to and hope that people like me. And then, later I'll come up with some sort of plan of what we're doing here. And my thought is, you got the job. We trust you. You got the job. You don't have to show up and tap dance and kiss asses. You get to show up and be the leader. Fall into that right away. Be confident. You got the job. Show up, be the leader. You don't have to tap dance. You don't have to, this is my second thing, you don't have to say yes to things that you don't want to say yes to. You can say no. Might you get stuck doing some of them anyway? You might. But for example, if you're super against design thinking, if you're super against design sprints, if you don't want product managers to do research, blah, 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 don't say yes to those things. Work with other leaders and hire leaders and executives on why we shouldn't do that. You're a leader. Try to create the world that you want. Create those apprenticeship jobs. Instead of training product managers, why aren't we training UX apprentices? So leaders need to create the world that they want and stop waiting for someone else to give them permission. You got permission, you got the job. That's my advice. Matthew.
No, I like it. I like it. It's a good one. Yeah, stop auditioning once you've got the job, kind of thing. Yeah.
He says it's mostly managing people. I've been placed into a leadership position, which I'm fine with, and it's something new and exciting. But I want to make sure I'm not only helping the team, and that's because of YouTube's 200 character limit. So we thank Elliot for his patience in telling us his story, 200 characters at a time.
That's going to come in a second. Yeah. So, yeah.
Go ahead. Start.
So that's a fair. You make a fair point. I'll go the other way and say that. Oh, here it goes. Also pushing UX into. Oh, so evangelization. Okay. Or did I just make a word up? Evangelization. Evangelizing.
Evangelism.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. I guess that's very different in that sense. So I would say to what more you're talking about, especially if you're a new leader, much in the same way that you walk into a design critique and someone's going to say something about it, like you're going to fail in some way, and you kind of understand that and accept that expectation. Same thing with being a leader, like you're going to mess up, like there's going to be aspects of it you're going to have to just figure out as you go along, because it's really dependent upon the team, the personality, skill set, etc., who's around you, how you're supported from above, right? So it's kind of very unique, company to company, etc. And so just be okay with sucking for a little bit. But I will say, make it to her point, make it your own through that, right? Figure out things that work well for you, and then like make it your own, like put your own style on it, do something that's unique to you that you really enjoy, that kind of helps the team forget about work a little bit as well. It's also nice. To the evangelist stuff, that's a totally different question. But certainly when you interact with someone in the C-level suite, okay. When you're interacting with the C-suite and trying to get buy-in in that stuff, always speak in their language. Is a book that I talk about a lot, called Drive from Daniel Pink, where you're trying to really get a sense of what's driving them. So when you interact with them, talk about design, but in the sense of how it affects their goals or how it supports their goals, right? And you should really be doing this when you're interacting with engineering, with the designers who report to you, et cetera, right? Kind of put it in language for them that they understand. And I think that'll help you kind of start to evangelize and get a sense of like, oh, okay. Or you can go the scientific route, which I just forget who did it. I think it was McKinsey, where they scientifically or quantifiably figured out that every dollar spent on UX is 10x back in ROI. I think development's one is like 3x. So you can show that, hey, if you even just give me a little bit of funding, here's how much value you get back, not just for the company, but for the customers as well. So really talking in business terms in that kind of sense about how design can help them meet those goals is really going to help get you a seat at the table, I think.
Yeah, thanks for that. And Kelby is also mentioning run some sessions with real users, share the insights, backed with video clips, then explain that UX at all levels will help solve the pain points. Yeah, I've often, I don't want to say always because you never know, but I've often found that to work very well. We love to make little video clip montages at my company. We usually do them with Dovetail. Not sponsored. You can make your video clips however the heck you like, but we found it pretty easy with Dovetail, so that's how we've been doing it. Elliot, I'd also recommend my Transforming Toward Customer Centricity course if you've got time for that. Let me see. Is that what's on my screen? Yeah. So deltacx.link/TTCC-training. I've got one coming up in about 2 or 3 weeks. If you don't mind giving me half of your weekend, I scheduled one for September 10 and 11, 2 half days. And I'll be talking more about this type of thing. So I hope that will help. Check that out. And you can always come to me privately for some help. Okay, next question. And we've got 10 more minutes. So I think these are going to be our last questions. I've got this one and one after it. And then I'm going to have to say, no more questions. We're cutting everybody off. I'm so sorry. We're going to be out of time. So we have some people with 2 years calling themselves senior. Should a junior follow such seniors or just keep a distance?
Sounds a bit passive aggressive, but
right. No names named, but you know who I mean.
Yeah. So, I mean, the titles are subjected to the company. I mean, if you work in finance, everyone's a vice president. So, I mean, and then I'm an elder millennial, I believe is my title. And as such, like, titles don't matter. It's what is the work that you're doing, and are you providing value for your customers, for your users, and then ultimately the business, right? So I honestly wouldn't get caught up in that. I'm trying to think of a go ahead. There's a quote I want to say. I have to look up for a second, but go ahead with whatever your thoughts are on this.
Yeah, I see both sides of the issue. On the one hand, I do think 2 years of experience is probably a bit early for a senior. We typically expect a senior to be more strategic. We expect them to have a certain amount of experience. We expect them to start being a bit of a mentor to others. But Matthew's right. Different titles are used differently in different companies, so you never know. And also ultimately, I go by what someone's work abilities are. I mean, Larry Marine, who's in his early 60s and has been doing this for decades, sometimes works at a company and ends up with the title of senior. What title should he have when he's doing this 40 years or whatever the case may be, 30 or whatever it is, 30 years. So I think on the one hand, I do think it is not necessarily the right move to give people inflated titles too early, but I agree with Matthew that we have to just assess individuals individually. I've often cringed when I see someone is head of UX and they finished a boot camp 2 years ago. So my gut feeling on that person is, not sure that person's ready to be head of UX. However, if somehow they are freaking amazing, then great. I defer to that. But in general, I do tend to feel like some of these titles are a little inflated, a little early. Matthew, do you find the quote?
Yeah, I get that. What you said made me think of the other aspect of like, yeah, titles can be kind of inflated in that sense, but design is also kind of like comedy. Like if if you can do it, there's no like official like, oh, you must get this certification to become a designer. So if you can do it, you can do it. And if you're handling those responsibilities of that role, awesome, good for you, go for it. Like nobody's stopping you from doing it, right? So but yeah, there's to your point, right? Yeah, if they went right from a boot camp and now they had a design, they're either to that point, it's going to be an extreme to one side or the other. Either they're really awesome or they're probably floundering and doing the best they can and won't be there for very long. Yeah.
Yeah, and what I said to the recruiter trying to convince me to work at that company was, do you think your head of design who graduated a boot camp 2 years ago wants me under them? When I might know a lot more than they do and have more experience. And so there are definite more cons than pros to giving people these inflated titles early. But ultimately, your question is, should I follow such a person? And to me, I believe in follow people with good content. If they have content that is meaningful, actionable, and helpful, sorry to cover our lovely guests. If they have, if it's meaningful, actionable, and helpful, if it is helping you, if you feel supported by them, if they're teaching you stuff, if you're growing because of them, sure, follow them or whatever is the right word for it nowadays, because this isn't a religion. But that's ultimately it. If this person is posting garbage and BS and which UI is better and fake it until you make it, then I would say pass on by, sail on by.
Agreed.
Hamed asks, is it a recorded live session? I don't understand your question. Do you mean right now? This is live. It is recorded. If you'd like to see it again, it is archived on YouTube. Just visit the Delta CX YouTube channel. You can find all the links related to the show at deltacx.com/links, including a calendar of events with all of the shows that we have coming up and links to our free Slack and Discord workspaces. Solomon says, maybe a discussion can be had on whether you should promote an individual that is extremely skilled at the tactical nature of the job, like running usability studies. Should you promote such a person to a higher level title for that reason alone?
No,
I
absolutely
would go
not.
with no also.
Yeah, because doing just because you can do the job doesn't mean you can manage the people who do the job. Managing people and doing that job are two completely different skill sets and occupations, right? Being able to be a leader and direct people and give them the freedom to be, especially with designers, versus let's say accountants or something else, right? Where it's very pedantic, but designers, right? Giving them the space to be creative, but doing it in a way that gives them boundaries of where they can go out, especially with respect to a design system or an approach within design patterns, right? That's a skill within itself for sure.
Yeah, and I also think about how we often expect seniors to mentor people, to review other people's work, and if UX is relatively new to you, then you might not be the best person to review other people's work. You might still be kind of learning yourself, and you might end up giving people some wacky advice, and so I am concerned about that. I usually think of senior as no less than 4 years and preferably 5. And I do tend to worry about people who are given senior titles with fewer than 4 years. So there. So we are just about out of time. Thank you so much, Matthew, for coming back on the show. If you enjoy the office hours, we are doing this every Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Italy time. Matthew was a guest back in March, so I think you can go to YouTube and search for Delta CX Matthew. It'll probably come up because YouTube is good at these things. And Matthew, any parting words or anything you want to plug or promote?
Well, thank you again so much for having me. Really appreciate it. It's always fun coming on and hearing what people's questions are. Yeah, again, check out anchor.fm/discovering-design, or just search Discovering Design on any of your major podcast platforms and check that out. We're in the middle of season 3. And yeah, make sure you take time to enjoy it's Labor Day coming up. I was getting backwards, right? but enjoy the time off coming up here at the end of the summer. Make sure you take some time for yourself. And yeah, enjoy. Thank you again for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. And a quick show notes for peeps. There's no show tomorrow, but we will be doing the critical thinking show on Friday. And don't forget to go to deltacx.com/links and send me something for next Monday's show. I have nothing to talk about, and that show is driven by you. So make sure you're sending something in for Monday's Think Out Loud show. Milky Drops and Will say thank you, and so do I. So I'm going to play us out of here and say everybody be well and see you soon. Thanks again, Matthew. Bye.
See you, everybody.
Customer centricity as business intelligence. Visit deltacx.com to learn why we are